Alright, what's good everyone? Welcome back to another video. In this video, I'm going to be doing a full comprehensive comparison between the OnePlus Open and the Z Fold 5. So let's get into it. So the first thing I want to compare is the pricing. So if I open up each of these, I got it on the websites and we will compare the pricing. So for the OnePlus Open, you're getting 16 gigs of RAM, 512 gigs of storage for $2,299.99 Canadian dollars. With the Z Fold 5, if there's no sale, then a similar configuration, the 512 gig, is at $2,600. But frequently, Samsung always has deals. So right now, the Z Fold 5 in Canada is on sale for $350 off, and then you can have trade-ins. But yeah, so the OnePlus is a little bit cheaper than, the similar configuration Z Fold 5. But you could always get this one for a little bit cheaper than both of those. So after comparing the price, I want to compare the packaging, because this is something that Samsung, Apple, Google, they don't give you anything anymore. They killed the value. Like back when you used to buy these guys and other Android devices, you would get earphones in the box, a charger, and all that stuff. So this is something that I feel like needs to change. They're saying it's in the name of the environment, but to be honest, there's different ways that you can package chargers and things like that and still make it smaller. You can fit a charger in this box and a cable. So we need that change. But anyways, the reason why I want to highlight it is because look at this. You open up this box, it folds out to show you the phone. Then you got the charger in the box and you got a cable in the box, and then also it came with the case. So this is like elite packaging right here, elite stuff that you get with the device in the box. Good value for your money. And not only do you get a charger with this, you get its proprietary 67-watt fast charger. What that means in English is that you can charge this phone from 0 to 100 in like 38 to 40 minutes. That's tough. Every other phone, your iPhone, your Galaxies, they charge in about an hour or more. Packaging goes to the OnePlus for sure. I just wanted to show you these guys. They basically all have the same stuff, right? Just the manuals, the SIM injection tool, and a cable. That's it. One thing I do like with the iPhone is that they got a braided cable now, but all the other top tier phones, the packaging sucks. Okay, so now I want to go over the design. So obviously the Z Fold 5 is slimmer, than the OnePlus Open, and then you have the camera layouts. OnePlus Open is a very big protruding camera layout, and it has I can't tell you the specific specs. I don't know them off the top of my head like that. But I assume it has a bigger camera sensor because of this size of the system, the housing. But yeah, there's that. Obviously it's a camera focused phone, Hasselblad partnership and all that stuff. Then on the sides, I feel like these phones are pretty similar when it comes to like thickness. The OnePlus Open I think is a little bit slimmer, but overall it's a very negligible difference. It's not that crazy. This is both with the case on. Without a case, I'm not gonna take both the cases off because adhesives for these foldable cases. But just to show you an example of the thickness, it's not a crazy difference. The OnePlus Open is thinner and then it's also lighter, but yeah, they both have matte finishes and then shiny sides. Overall, I think both of these designs look great. I think that these phones are pretty top tier when it comes to the aesthetics and stuff like that. But yeah, then you got the hinge, the OnePlus hinge. So one thing I don't like about the OnePlus hinge, in terms of like how it looks and how it's designed on the outside, is that it's like this little bar right here, and then there's like two ridges. Like there's two different levels on each side, and I feel like stuff can build up there and get stuck, like dust and stuff like that. The Z Fold 5, it does have its parts where dust can build up, but it's more rounded, and when you open it, I feel like it just does a good job of keeping this area clean. Whereas with this, like these sides are kind of always there, so that's something I don't like. But yeah, this is the basic design. The inside, obviously different aspect ratios. This is more square, has a more vertical and then landscape type orientation or horizontal orientation. And then OnePlus Open has the camera cutout right here for a better quality camera, whereas the Z Fold 5 has an under display camera that is pretty well hidden when you're doing like everyday things and you're not really looking for it. But the quality sucks. That's the design, and then you have fingerprint sensor on the sides instead of on the in the screen, which I think is better. They both work fine and fast. To start a comparison with like the experience of using these phones, I'm gonna start with the outside screen. So the first thing I want to talk about is one hand usage. So with the Z Fold 5, people don't like how small it is on the outside screen, but I feel like this is perfect for one-handed usage. So I can hold it comfortably and do everything I need to do with one hand. I feel like it's great. And then with the OnePlus Open, one hand usage is also pretty good. I don't think it's bad at all. You know, this is more closer to using a normal phone with one hand, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But the Z Fold 5 is more comfortable for one-handed usage and one-hand slide texting and all that stuff. And then the ergonomics. So this is something that I don't really see people talking about a lot. For me, this phone's ergonomics are not that good. Like, there's something about this design that just doesn't allow the phone to sit comfortably in your hand. And it's not necessarily the camera bump like this. Okay, so the camera bump does make your finger kind of, at least for my hands, go in a certain awkward way that causes my hand like around here to cramp up. But then just in general, like, it doesn't feel good in my hands. Like, it feels like, you know, something is just like constantly poking me. It's like I'm holding like a square or something like that. Well, with or without the case, it's like that. And as you can see, like, it's very sharp on the corners. This is again with or without the case. And then your left hand, if you're left-handed, it's even worse. Like, this literally is stabbing into you like all the time. And then the awkward angle of holding this, like, I thought this wouldn't be an issue because a lot of reviewers are talking about it, but for me, this it actually ends up making my hand cramp when I hold the phone, like my finger being under the camera module. So there's that. Ergonomics is not that good on this, whereas with the Z Fold 5, in my opinion, I think these ergonomics are some of the best on any phone. Maybe if it's different if you're left-handed. Yeah, this is not as comfortable, but in my right hand, the ergonomics feel fine. Dual hand is a different situation. That makes it a little bit more comfortable for this phone in terms of ergonomics, but then at the same time, this gets in the way, and it feels awkward, like with your finger being under the camera module. Normally when I'm holding my phones, like, it's still in a similar position, but like the tips of my finger kind of go a little bit up, you know, so it makes it easier for me to hold the phone. And another thing I didn't mention is the balance. Like, I feel like the Z Fold 5, it's a heavier phone, but the balance is actually some of the best of any phone I've used. Like, even the iPhone 15 Pro Max, the balance on this just feels so much better. Like, it's very centered, you know, it just kind of sits in the middle. Whereas with this phone, like, as you can see, I'm trying to do the same thing and it's falling off. So when the balance is off like that, and then this is kind of hindering your fingers from sitting comfortably, and the ergonomics in general are just not good. Yeah, it's not necessarily a great experience just holding and using this phone, at least for me. Maybe for other people it will be different. So now we're gonna go to typing. I'm gonna show you a real world example of typing on both of these phones for this comparison. Okay, so I'll type "the microphone is black." Okay, there's this is two-handed typing. I have no issues typing on this smaller screen with two hands, one hand. This works really well. Same with this. I do feel, maybe it's because I'm used to this more, so it's a little bit more comfortable for me. But yeah, again, the ergonomics of this, it just makes it doesn't feel like a good typing experience in my opinion. Like, it's good enough, it passes, but yeah, it's not the best. Like, I would put so many other phones over this phone in terms of typing. And then one-handed typing, so I'm gonna type the same sentence with one-handed. So, the microphone is black. There's that. I'll type it again with swiping. Okay. And then with the Z Fold 5 one-handed. And then swiping. That's typing on both of the outside screens. Personally, I feel like this is it's not bad at all. I think this is really good for one-handed. Okay, so now let's talk about multitasking. So there's a few ways you can get into multitasking on the Fold 5. You can get into it with the edge panel like this, boom, and then I'm quickly multitasking two apps at once. and then you have your gestures. So I can swipe up like that, and then boom, 2 apps. So with the OnePlus Open, you can do the same thing. Grab your edge panel, drag and drop, and then boom. I feel like this was a little bit more smoother, but yeah, you can do that. And then there is also, so the OnePlus Open has gestures to get into it. Like it has a swipe down gesture for a split screen, but you cannot do that on this orientation for some reason. So yeah, but you can do the traditional, you know, pull it up and then split screen that way, and it will allow you to select the app. And then in terms of floating windows on both of them, you can enter floating windows using the edge panels same way. So for floating windows on the OnePlus Open, same thing, grab the edge panel, then you tap it and it will open up, and then boom, you have a floating window. You can minimize it and it snaps, or you can interact with it and then it can sit anywhere, and then resize it, but it stays in the same aspect ratio of the app. And then you can also open it, close it, all that stuff. So for floating windows on the Z Fold 5, you grab your edge panel, drag and drop, and then there it is. On the Z Fold 5, you can resize it to any aspect ratio. It works with all apps, and yeah, it works well. You can tap this, minimize it, change the opacity of the app, you know, full screen it if you want to, and all that stuff. And then with both of them, you can enter floating windows from the app switcher. With this, one thing that I do like about floating windows on this phone is that you can swipe and hold, and then boom, you're in floating windows really quickly with any app. So that's cool. The only difference is that on this phone, I can have as many floating windows as I want. You might think, why would you do that? But in certain situations, it's pretty useful. Like if you're taking notes or something quickly, but then you also need to use the calendar, you can have both of those apps in floating windows while doing something else, minimize them, open each one when you need it, etc. Okay, so the next comparison I'll do on the outside screens is gaming. So yeah, with this screen being narrow, a lot of people would not game on this screen at all on the Z Fold 5. In my opinion, it's not a bad experience at all. Like I said before in my other video, that I've used the iPhone minis and I enjoyed the iPhone mini, so I have no problem gaming on this screen. It's basically the same, just a little bit longer than that. So Pokemon Unite is a game that I really enjoy, and I play on like all my phones, all my devices. Unfortunately, it has scaling issues on foldable phones and bigger screens, so that's why I use this game as a primary example of how it works on these special devices. But obviously on the OnePlus Open, it's going to be a better experience for gaming on the outside screen because normal aspect ratios, not necessarily because of the size, although that does help. It's because of the aspect ratio. It's more like a traditional smartphone. As you can see with this, you got the black bars. I don't know why the game's not loading. Maybe because my account's logged to both of them. I'll actually go into the game to show you like how it looks with the controls and everything, and then we'll do the same on this. Okay, so this is how it looks on, you know, the OnePlus Open. We got all the controls where you want them to be. The map is displaying properly. Everything is fine. So Pokemon Unite and other games will work 100% properly on this phone like it would on a normal size smartphone. Okay, so on the Z Fold 5, same character. Let's get into it. Comparing it to this size, it's not that bad at all because all the controls are where you want them to be, just like on this one. This is more like a normal phone compared to the bigger inside screen, so this game scales properly on this phone, except it doesn't stretch to the full length of the display, which I wish it did, but it doesn't, so that's okay. But yeah, it feels comfortable to play. There's no issues. The only issue I have with it is like wearing a case like this, my finger will touch this and it can kind of disrupt what I'm doing. But other than that, the size of this is fine, and I enjoy playing Pokemon Unite on this outside screen when I don't want to, you know, work around the inside screen, or if it's just a quick game and I'm out and stuff like that. Another thing to note is that while playing a horizontal game, holding it like this is very comfortable, and it feels pretty light the way that the weight is distributed. But obviously this is going to be more comfortable for playing Pokemon Unite. But the camera is still at the back, right? So over time my hands will cramp for some reason. That's just what happens for me. And then these sharp edges. So the screen is good, but the shape of the phone, the ergonomics, it's not the best in my opinion. Like this feels more comfortable in terms of the ergonomics. Although this is pretty similar though, because whichever way you're holding it, this is going to be kind of sharp, but there's no camera at the back to mess up my hands. But at the same time, it's kind of small, so maybe your hands might cramp. But this is honestly doesn't feel too much different from like a controller, to be honest, like a Switch. Okay, the next thing we're gonna get into is watching videos. So I'm gonna just open up the same video. my video I dropped recently, the OnePlus Open Story. You should go watch that. But this is how YouTube looks on the outer displays when you're in like, you know, vertical mode, and you got your comments at the bottom on both of them. This one is more narrow, but it's also taller, so you can see more recommendations, and then you can also see more comments at one time. And then they're both pretty small, but again, this is just so easy to hold and use. Like it's really not a bad experience. Like if you're just like kind of on YouTube but not you're not fully invested. Like let's say I'm watching a podcast or somebody's talking or something like that, I have my earphones in. This is not a bad experience, and mainly I'm just reading comments. Like this is what I do on the outside screen. If I'm using YouTube on the outside screen, I'm reading comments and stuff like that more than like I'm actually invested in the video that I'm watching. And then everything I said about this one holding it like this still applies, but it's a bigger screen, so it might be easier to read. But at the same time, bigger screen, but like it doesn't look that different, to be honest, in terms of like the size of the text and all that stuff. This is a little bit bigger. Like this is actually a pretty good example of how I feel about these outer displays. The difference is very negligible. Like this adds like, you know, a couple more millimeters of length from the Z Fold 5. It's not a huge difference that people are making it seem like, but maybe in terms of like typing and comfortability, this screen might be more better for a lot of people, and that's fine. But like in terms of viewing and stuff like that, it's really not that big of a difference in my opinion. But yeah, so now let's get to full screen. I've been talking a lot. I'm low-key yapping out here. So full screen. There you have it. You know, full screen is good on this phone. It's like a normal phone, closer to a normal phone. I don't think it's bad on this phone either. When I have these foldable phones and I'm using the outside display, I'm usually doing that for like a short amount of time, or like I'm out on the go, you know, stuff like that. I'm moving a lot, so I'll be watching on the outside the screen like this, you know, holding it and walking around, things like that. This is perfect for that use case, one-handed usage, quickly just doing that, and then, you know, get on with my business. With this one, I can do the same thing, but it's a little bit bigger, right? It's not as easy to hold with one hand, but the screen is bigger. So if I'm actually into it, then I will have a better experience because it's a little bit bigger. But again, the difference is not anything crazy. Like if I'm talking about a crazy difference, then I'll go from this screen to this screen. That's a crazy difference. And like the OnePlus Open, the size of it is comparable to the Z Fold 5, or even itself, like half of the screen. But even this is a little bit bigger. That is watching videos on the outside screens. I think both of them are good enough. The OnePlus Open is obviously better for like media consumption on the outside screen because it's bigger size. So now I'm gonna go into like scrolling apps. Okay, so Instagram, it is what it is. You see the same amount of content, just a little bit smaller on the Z Fold 5, and I feel like it works fine. Like it's not a big difference. It's not a big issue. Full screen works fine because it's vertical content usually on Instagram. You know, it is what it is here. On the Z Fold 5, because it's taller, you can see a little bit more information, a little bit more content in different situations on Instagram. So I can see more of the profile on this one versus this. I have to swipe up and then I lose the top. So there is that. You know, maybe you won't like it, but one-handed, I can see, you know, okay, I like this post down here, I can go to that. So there's that. All right, so Twitter, very negligible difference in my opinion, not that crazy. You see more information on the vertical screen right here because it's taller. If you need to see something that's too small for you or something like that, you can increase the size. Works for both of them. Okay, so TikTok. Yeah, TikTok is TikTok. A little bit bigger on this screen, a little bit smaller on this screen. Both of them are very functional and, you know, easy to use, good to use. I think they both work well. On this screen, you can make it horizontal, but unfortunately, the Z Fold 5 is too slim to work with that feature, so it doesn't work like that. But yeah, other than that, TikTok is a very similar experience on here. So using the cameras, basically the same thing. This is a little bit bigger with the viewfinder. This is a little bit smaller. But in my opinion, this is all you need to see. Like when you think about camera screens, like Sony camera screens, where you can see the electronic viewfinder on the camera screen, it's around this size. Like usually they're not that big as a normal phone, right? So in my opinion, with my experience using like actual cameras, this is a good enough size for a viewfinder for a camera. I think it's all right. But then this is a little bit bigger. It's gonna be that and better because you can see it a little bit bigger. So tent mode, apparently the OnePlus Open can do tent mode. I haven't looked at how to do it because I don't care really. I don't use tent mode that often, but the Z Fold 5 works with tent mode flawlessly. Sometimes I might use it if like I just want to prop this down quickly if I'm using the outside display. OnePlus Open, you open it and it opens. So like this phone is literally made to be open. It is what it is. All right, so the next comparison with the outside screens is the home screens. So on the Z Fold 5, one thing that is very underrated about this phone that people don't really talk about, I think, enough, is that you can have two separate home screen setups for the Z Fold 5. I'm pretty sure this is the only foldable phone that has that feature. This is my outside screen on the Fold 5. And then my inside screen is like this. Completely different wallpaper and a different setup. On the outside, it's like this. So yeah, I'm always changing my home screens. Like this is not final, but that's how it works on the Z Fold 5. With the OnePlus Open, you have each page, and then you open it up. It is the same pages. It's just showing two pages at the same time. So there's that. I'm pretty sure other foldable phones, they work like this. The next thing I want to talk about is the face unlock. So I think biometrics on the OnePlus Open are better than the Z Fold 5. The face unlock just works more consistently and better than the Z Fold 5's face unlock. The fingerprint sensor on both of these devices work basically the same. Fold 5 might be faster in terms of like unlocking with the fingerprint sensor. Yeah, I think it's faster and this kind of like glitches open, but for the most part it's the same. Yeah, that animation is smoother on the Fold 5 for sure. Brightness, you know, both of these are pretty bright phones, I think, very usable outside, but the OnePlus Open is one of the brightest smartphones ever. All right, so now we talked a lot about the outside screens. I want to go inside, so let's go.